Hey, I'm Pastor Jason Hanash here talking to you today about leadership pipelines. Maybe you're a pastor or a church planter, and like very many ministry leaders, you're wondering what to do to include more people in ministry. Many people, what they'll do, maybe you've been in this position, or maybe your leaders are in this position, where you have someone, or you might be someone who is in ministry and you're leading a team, and you're wondering, where do I go from here? How do I build this team and grow this team so that we can continue to grow the church, so that we can continue to multiply another service, maybe even another campus? What we need is a scalable approach to do ministry, not only as a church plant out the gate, but a vision, a system that allows me to include more people in ministry and actually develop leaders in the process. We call this the leadership pipeline. Let me give you the 6 steps, or the 6 places on the leadership pipeline, and it starts off very simply. We just call it a member. That's a team member. That's a first impressions team member. That's your kids ministry team member. That's maybe any ministry, youth ministry. That is someone who has stepped into a volunteer role and has started serving on the team. And this is where so many people get caught up. There's a leader over a team. How do we scale that? How do we continue to develop leaders? Let me give you this next step, because someone has to identify potential. In that, let's call it the first impressions team. In the first impressions team, the leader needs to identify, hey, there's an usher who's killing it, who's doing it well, who's a good example. Hey, here's what I need to do. I need to talk to Joe Usher and ask him if he can help me be a lead usher. I've now actually multiplied. I need you to lead. So what we call this next level is the apprentice. I'm going to give you the second level right after that, because this is a short-term step transition to train your leaders. Your leaders. And depending on what that ministry is, that apprenticeship step may look like a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the skill level necessary to do the function as a leader in that ministry. Now, me as a leader, what I've done is I've just replaced myself in that ministry. Now I'm leading a leader. And the goal is to get a parking lot leader, a cafe leader, an information team leader, that I don't just have people serving in ministry, a member of a team. I actually have people leading those who are serving in ministry. And now what I get to do is not just lead the team now. Now I am at this level, I'm a coach. That's what we call it. The coach is responsible for coaching, supporting, praying, and even equipping your leaders. I've stepped into a new dimension of leadership now. I'm just not leading team members. I am leading leaders who are leading the ministry. How fantastic is that we're multiplying ourselves? But check this out. It doesn't stop there. Now you have, say, 2 services. You need someone to lead the first service and the second service, who are going to help you lead all these leaders. So I need to replace myself again. So, man, I identified someone in that information center who is detail-oriented but friendly. That's very hard to combine those, but I found someone who's organized and efficient. They're people-oriented. They can actually do this role of a coach, leading leaders really well. So you know what? I'm going to identify Shelly here, the information center leader, and she's going to shadow with me for a couple of months, and I'm going to show her how to be a coach of leaders and what it takes to lead at this level. And now she is let's call her the first service coach. She is leading the leaders of that first service, and I have stepped up into a role that we'll just call the director. Now I'm the director of guest experience now. I'm the director of first impressions, of hospitality, of whatever you call it in your ministry context. I am overseeing this ministry, but I'm not down there scheduling information center or parking lot. I am actually leading 2 coaches, my first service and my second service coach. They're responsible for executing the guest service plan for that service. They're leading the leaders of the different ministries who are leading the teams. And now I've created a scalable approach. No matter where you're at, you can put this pipeline. Now the next level, that last dot, if you're wondering what that is, and I'm gonna write this word, pastor, you know as well as I do, that just means leader. It is one of, so maybe it's you, lead pastor, right now. Maybe it's an associate pastor, one of your associate pastors. Maybe you have an executive team that oversees certain departments of ministry. But that's now a pastor's responsibility to oversee my directors who are leading different areas of ministry. Let me give you important key components to this leadership pipeline. This leadership pipeline, in order for it to be successful, needs to be placed in every ministry environment. This leadership pipeline, in the same steps and process that I use in First Impressions, has to be the same process that I use in kids ministry. It has to be the same process in youth, in small groups, in worship, in production. In every stage, it's the same process and it's the same vocabulary. If I call it a coach in small groups, I have to call it a coach in First Impressions and in kids ministry. Why is that important? Because I am creating now a leadership culture across the entire church. When I'm using this, when I say coach, the people at this church know exactly what their role is. If I say director, they know exactly, and it influences language and vocabulary, influences the culture of your church. Now, let me break it up even further to show you the different needs and aspects and responsibility of each level. We call at this first entry level of ministry, we call that a technician level. This is you get people, these are the doers of ministry. Now and I'm not degrading that at all, but we need people to do ministry. In fact, we are called to equip people to do the works of ministry. These are doers of ministry. We can't just have all doers. You need some people at the second level being equippers of ministry. And in fact, that's what actually God has called leaders to do, pastors to do, to equip the body of Christ for works of ministry. So you have some equippers, some technicians, and then at this level, at director and pastor, is what we call the multiplier. The multiplier level of leadership are those in the body of Christ at the highest level who are not just multiplying leaders, but they're multiplying ministries. They're multiplying directors. They're multiplying themselves. They're multiplying pastors, high level, high capacity people for the body of Christ. Technicians, equippers, multipliers, you need everyone in your ministry environment. This here is a leadership pipeline. You can place it in any environment. If you're a church of 50, 100, of 2,000, you can place this pipeline in your church. It may start with just a member and a leader, you, but you have a vision and a system to grow your church, to grow your ministry. So when God provides the increase, and He will, you have a plan in place to replace yourself and include others in ministry at your church.